We are living through one of the most fascinating periods in human history and, if we are honest, one of the most unsettling. Technology has transformed almost every aspect of our lives. It has made communication faster, information more accessible, and everyday tasks infinitely more convenient. Yet, beneath all these benefits lies a question that we rarely stop long enough to ask in our enthusiasm for everything technology gives us. Are we paying sufficient attention to what it may be taking away? Could humanity, without realizing it, be sleepwalking towards its own destruction? That may sound dramatic, but think for a moment about the digital tools we now use almost every minute of every day. Each new application, device or online service arrives as a small gift, something designed to save us time, remove inconvenience or make life easier. Individually, each innovation appears harmless and beneficial. Collectively, however, they may represent a profound and dislocating transfer of power. In our rush towards a world of instant access and frictionless convenience, are we surrendering something much more valuable? Our independence, our judgement, and ultimately, our human agency. The familiar story of the boiling frog offers a powerful metaphor. Place a frog in boiling water and it will immediately try to escape. Place it in cool water and gradually increase the temperature, however, and it may fail to recognize the danger until it is too late. Whether or not the biology is literally accurate, the metaphor certainly is. During the course of a single lifetime, we have travelled from winding up gramophones to streaming high-definition films on small glass screens we carry in our pockets. The temperature of technological change is rising so rapidly that we are increasingly unable to recognise that we are sitting in a saucepan at all. The Great Intelligence Flip. To understand what is happening, we need to recognise what I call the Great Intelligence Flip, a fundamental change in the relationship between human beings and machines. For those of us who remember a world BC, before computers, the journey from gaslit streets and homes without telephones to artificial intelligence has been marked by a succession of extraordinary and sometimes disorientating leaps. For centuries, human beings used intelligence, intuition, and physical senses to get the best from mechanical tools. We were the masters, and the machines were our servants. We listened, adjusted, repaired, improvised, and learned. The machine depended upon us. Today, that relationship is being reversed. Machines are acquiring senses of their own. They can see, hear, recognise patterns, predict behaviour, and increasingly make decisions. Instead of us using our intelligence to manage the machine is beginning to use its intelligence to manage us. We are no longer simply the operators. Increasingly, we are becoming the data points. Where once we were masters, we may now become slaves. That is the existential danger. When we casually exchange human judgment for automated efficiency, we are not merely adopting a useful new tool. We may be changing our status as a species. And there is an irony here. As our machines have become smarter, many of us have lost the intimate knowledge and personal relationship we once had with our tools. A so-called dumb machine demanded human involvement. It had quirks, character and personality. It needed to be understood, coaxed and occasionally persuaded. The smart machine promises to remove all that effort. It offers one-size-fits-all automation. But in replacing skill, knowledge and partnership with push-button convenience, we risk becoming completely dependent upon systems we neither understand nor control. I remember my Uncle Bill's Humber Snipe, affectionately known as the Bomb, not because it was fast or glamorous, but because it possessed a mysterious and rather alarming unpredictability. A family journey to Skegness was not simply a matter of turning a key and following a satellite navigation system. It involved a weekly ritual. The bonnet was raised, spark plugs were cleaned, oil was checked, the oil exhaust was listened to. Vibrations were felt through fingertips and feet. The driver developed a relationship with the car and learned to understand how it was feeling. It was a mechanical machine, but it was also a physical partnership. That relationship has largely disappeared from our age of sealed engines, diagnostic computers, and push-button automation. The journey may be easier, cleaner, and more reliable, but something human has been lost along the way. Innovation and unintended consequences. History also teaches that even the most well-intentioned innovations can produce consequences their creators never imagined. Consider Thomas Cook, the pioneering social entrepreneur who recognized the revolutionary potential of the steam railway. Cook was deeply concerned about the destructive effects of alcoholism. He believed that travel could broaden people's horizons, enrich otherwise limited lives, and provide a healthier alternative to the public house. His idea was built on three simple principles. Travel had to be attractive to people whose lives were often monotonous. It had to be accessible through new mechanisms such as organised tickets and travellers' checks. Above all, it had to be affordable, which meant negotiating bulk rates that ordinary working people could pay. It was a remarkable and socially progressive vision. Yet, in using the most advanced communication and transport technology of his time to tackle a social problem, Thomas Cook unintentionally helped to create the global mass tourism industry. That industry became an enormous machine in its own right, one that eventually facilitated many of the same excesses and behaviours Cook had originally hoped to overcome. This is one of the uncomfortable truths of innovation. Once a technology is released into the world, its creator rarely controls over where it leads or how it will ultimately be used. George Bernard Shaw famously observed that the reasonable person adapts to the world, whilst the unreasonable person persists in trying to adapt the world to themselves, and that all progress, therefore, depends upon the unreasonable person. For centuries, humanity used that unreasonable spirit to bend tools and technologies to human purposes. But now that our tools are beginning to shape us, we must ask whether we still possess the courage to resist, challenge, and redirect them. The erosion of the bedrock community. The greatest cost of technological convenience may not be mechanical or economic, it may be social. Before computers, physical space was the bedrock of human existence. People lived, worked, and grew older within communities whose members depended upon one another. Neighbours were not simply people who occupied the house next door. They were part of the support system through which daily life was navigated. Industrialisation and mass transport began a gradual process of physical dislocation. Digital technology has accelerated it dramatically. We have exchanged the deep knowledge and shared experience of physical proximity for a form of screen-based connectivity that can be broad, immediate, and yet strangely shallow. We have become highly mobile, globally connected, and at the same time, increasingly untethered from one another. When I think back to childhood life on Yarborough Road, I remember a world rich in local character and shared experience. People who knew one another, not through profiles, posts or algorithms, but through voices, habits, stories and daily encounters. You knew Major Gilbert simply by hearing the extraordinary power of his mother's voice as he called him, her voice echoing along the street. You knew the families around you, their triumphs, their eccentricities, and sometimes their tragedies. The dark story of the Summerfield family was not consumed as a distant online content. It became part of the collective memory of a real community. Life was guided not by a personalised algorithm designed to hold our attention, but by the accumulated wisdom, affection and messy experience of parents, relatives, neighbours and friends. Those relationships were not always perfect. Physical communities could be restrictive, intrusive and uncomfortable, but they gave people a sense of place, identity, continuity and mutual responsibility. Preserving those deep human bonds may prove to be one of the most important things we can do to protect ourselves from digital isolation. Today, our world is divided between two very different experiences. Digital immigrants remember a time when human agency was physical and visible, a world of clanking engines, hissing steam, handwritten letters, and tools that had to be understood. For us, the past provides a map of what has gradually been surrendered. Digital natives have been born directly into a world of screens, instant information, and constant connection. They have no personal memory of what existed before. For them, a satellite navigation system that mistakenly identifies a sacred Thai temple as a hospital is not evidence of how fallible technology can be. It is simply part of the only reality they have ever known, and the instruction may still be followed because the machine is assumed to know best. That is why this conversation matters. You cannot mourn the loss of something you have never experienced. Waking up to reality. We now stand on the threshold of another extraordinary era. Artificial intelligence is being given access to an ever-growing proportion of humanity's accumulated knowledge, our science, our art, our wisdom and prejudice, our creativity and cruelty, our capacity for both good and evil. In a very real sense, we are creating a new God in our own image. The pace of development is so rapidly that we urgently need to pause and examine the architecture of what we're building. Is artificial intelligence becoming a magnificent tool for human liberation, enabling us to solve problems, extend healthy lives and fulfill human potential? Or are we quietly constructing the bars of our own digital prison? Technology itself is not the enemy. I've spent much of my life embracing innovation and exploring its power to improve lives. The danger lies not in the existence of the tool, but in our willingness to surrender responsibility for how it is designed, controlled and used. The water is heating, and we can no longer afford to sleepwalk. The ultimate test of our humanity will be whether we can preserve the physical bedrock relationships that make us human while still enjoying the extraordinary benefits of the digital world. Can we reclaim our agency? Can we remain masters of our tools rather than allowing ourselves to become their servants? And do we still possess enough George Bernard Shaw's in reasonable spirit to challenge the direction of travel, to recognise the saucepan, feel the rising temperature and jump out before the lid closes forever? The future of humanity will not be protected by technology alone. It will be protected by human beings who remain connected to one another, conscious of what they are surrendering and courageous enough to insist that technology serves humanity, not the other way round.